welcome to the channel. I haven't made any video about summons for a long time, and I wonder how many of you remember the ones that I tested each summon separately. Luckily, we now have dummies for testing and quite a lot of new types of summons. Nevertheless, there are still many questions, but not many answers. So in this episode, we will do a quick review and summary of all things related to summons. Due to the fact that we have many new players, I have to refer to old summons. I'll start with the Skeleton Warriors. Their basic version was always decent. There's not much to say here. Mainly useful if you need them, and hit essence, which enhances different skill. At this stage of the game, we have much better options. Here it is also worth mentioning the Skeletal Commander. Hardly anyone remembers this summon anymore, and there is reason for that, since this summon has terrible performance. It's a shame, because the concept of this summon is very interesting, and I would like to see some retextured, improved version of this essence. Archers were for a long time considered the best performing summon. I also used them in almost all of my summon-based builds. Due to weak summons AI, their high damage and ranged attack provided them a significant advantage. You can still use them if you don't have access to Inferno Essence. Zombies are one of the newest versions of the Skeletal Warriors. Even though I wasn't playing a Necromancer at the time, I know they were rather well received. They have much better damage compared to the vanilla version, but on top of that they have debuffing aura. So if you use Vengeance Reforged bonuses, this will provide you with increased damage to enemies that are within the range of this aura. This is also a good solution when it comes to applying other gems effects. Generally, for a short time, zombies were the first choice, but lighting summons have been introduced. They simply outperform other essences. Damage-wise, they are the best solution. Additionally, they teleport to the target with each attack, so their range is not limited. On top of that, they apply a shock effect, which increases their damage, and it synergizes with other things, but more on that later. As far as I know, shock damage is not described, but it is 50% additional bonus. When it comes to skeletal mages, their basic version is a rather poor choice. Basically, any additional essence is better. And here we have laser mages. Their targeting is very slow, but they have a quite interesting function. They can use the crystal to spread their beam, what is actually nothing new. But if I remember correctly, crystal was never a priority for them. At this point, whenever a crystal is nearby, they automatically point their laser at it, which basically, combined with the wizard, has the best area damage. If we don't want to use it, then another type of skeletal mage will be a better option. Here we have the iconic Grim Reaper, quite a clunky alternative, but with high damage and survivability. Currently, it is difficult to use it effectively, due to the high essence demanding. Empowered mage used to be a good solution, but as we know, its crowd control does not work for our gems, as well as beneficial effect from bone armor. so we cannot fully utilize it. Magus was, and actually still is, one of the best solutions. Has very good damage against one target. Area damage is slightly weaker due to the splitting of his attacks. So regardless of using this essence or Thunder Mages, you should achieve pretty good results. And Thunder Mages, basically the best choice, synergizes with Shock debuff, which puts them in first place. Their Chain Lightning also seems to be the most effective for area damage. Speaking of Golem, its vanilla version is rather useless, so I move to the next one. The Stone Golem is the only one that deals quite solid range damage. However, its stones are more cool looking than useful. Bone Golem received a 500% damage buff to the active skill. I think it slightly improved its performance. The problem is Awakening, which doesn't increase its damage. The Fire Golem was very useful for farming because of its aura, but since we have a much better build, its usefulness is decreasing in my opinion. Build based on Dark Curse and lances can be found on my channel. And here we got Poison Golem. It is worth mentioning here that it imposes a debuff that increases all damage. That's why it might look like a best choice. But ultimately, it depends on the configuration we use. Because the Lightning Golem applies a shock effect, the same as the Skeleton Warriors, and although we cannot stack this effect, but by using it alternately we can increase its uptime. Regardless of what the final choice is, the Golem currently serves as a support for other summons. That's why a good choice is to use an offhand that increases damage. It's also hard to say which summon configuration is the best, because it strongly depends on what equipment you use. I can certainly say that lighting skeletons outperform everything. Another solid source is bone armor as chain lighting, but it is worth mentioning here that these are not summon damage. So if you have all summon damage bonuses, the proportion of these damage may be different. And as I mentioned, Golem is usually a support for other sources. So if you mainly use light sources, then lighting Golem will be a good choice. Otherwise, poison will be a safe pick because it works on everything. To sum up, apart from the Skeleton Warriors, mages and golems are a rather cosmetic change. I also decided to check whether the shock effect works on legendary gems or not. Surprisingly, lighting core works. We may notice more damage during shock. Exactly the same situation with Voice Spark. So this is another factor that may change the effectiveness of using lighting summons. When it comes to bone armor, we have a few choices, but both Spikes and Vortex do not stack with a number of summons. We can only increase the operating area, so it won't be the best choice if we have many summons. Lighting Pulse has the ability to deal damage several times, So the more summons we have, the more effective it will be. Sometimes the pattern isn't that effective though, but it still seems like a very solid choice, especially since along with the bone armor, we can receive bonuses from other essences. With all that being said, lightning summons have changed the current summoner meta quite a bit, and with this video, you will already know which configuration is best for you. So I will be grateful if you hit a like button. This helps me reach a larger group of viewers. Also consider subscribing to the channel to stay up to date with new videos. And as always, thanks for watching.